Jenga, Imani ya kondugu, kama watu wa zamani. Jenga, imani ya kondugu, kama watu wa zamani. Kesha sana, niombe sana, utajenga imani yako. Kesha sana, niombe sana, utajenga imani yako. Jenga imani yako ndugu, kama watu wa zamani. Jenga imani yako ndugu, kama watu wa zamani. Kesha sana, ukiomba sana, utajenga imani yako. Kesha sana, ukiomba sana, utajenga imani yako. Jenga imani yako ndugu, kama watu wa zamani. Jenga imani yako ndugu, kama watu wa zamani. Kesha sana, omba sana, utajenga imani yako. Kesha sana, ukiomba sana, utajenga imani yako.
Thank you, and good morning. Good morning. Welcome to the First Unitarian Universalist Congregation of Ann Arbor. To those of you here, to those of you on live stream, and from wherever you are, wherever you're joining us, welcome. I'm Reverend Theresa Rohlck. I serve as your Congregational Chaplain and the Director of the Handbell Choir. On this Sunday, focusing on music, I am joined by our worship team and a lot of guests. Today, I have with me Reverend Cassandra Hartley, the Executive Minister, Carter Smith, our Acting Director of Music, Allison Halerz, our Pianist-in-Residence, the Chalice Singers in person, Leah, Tame, and Joe Libin, the Chalice Singers on video, all of them, the Chalice Bells, some of them, including Holly Kelchner, who will offer a reflection later, and Mike Halerz, our tech consultant, who just happens to be looking for folks to join the AV team, a newly formed team. It's a great chance to volunteer and play with really cool equipment. So talk to Mike after the service if you are interested in that. If you are new to us and curious about this faith tradition and this congregation, I invite you to stay for a newcomer's welcome in the Jackson Chapel. It's directly out through these doors, go a little ways up and to the right, and there's a sign there. There'll be someone there to welcome you and answer any questions you have. A few reminders for those who are new and not new. We thank you for wearing masks inside and outside the building during worship and social time. We still have our big yellow tent up, and we welcome you to gather outside with your coffee and donuts, even though it's getting cooler and it's finally feeling like fall in Michigan. But beware, the grass is a bit slippery from all the rain we've had. Now, if you are like me, you need a lot of lead time when it comes to Halloween costumes. So this is fair warning that you are invited to come to worship on the 31st in costume. Nothing super scary for Sunday morning and no weapons, please, but you still need to wear your mask. And if dressing up is not your thing, at least come to see your worship team in costume that Sunday. We're happy if you are using your electronic devices to view the order of service or to text to give or just to let your friends know you are here at UUAA. but be sure the sound is off, unless you are a caregiver for someone. Now, that's a lot of reminders. So let's just take a few breaths now and shift our focus to this time of worship together. Whether you are at home or here in the sanctuary, just breathe with me for a moment and put aside the thoughts that are competing for your attention right now. If you would pause and open the palm of your hand, if you are able, and hear these words. The magic of your palm is that though empty, it can be filled. But look at it, one of the planes of creation with which your body is equipped. Lines sweeping out to fingers and the marvels of opposable thumbs, that single leap toward grasping. And do not fear if you do not have hands. We know that you too create. And together we take up what it means to hold a value and make it come alive. More than only thought and feeling, rather being, doing, and becoming. A sculpted expression, colorful, an embodiment of why we are, what we do, and what we will yet become. The magic of an empty palm, the poetry of Theresa and Soto. We are gathered for worship.
Good morning. It is such a joy to be present with you this morning, whether physically in this sanctuary or virtually. Your presence in this service helps us to form the loving community that we all share. As we do each week, this morning we will light our chalice. This ritual is a constant reminder of our connections with each other and the community we continue to build together. Today, Joe Libin is going to help us light our chalice here in this sanctuary. If you are joining us from home or at a later time and you have your own chalice, I invite you to light yours along with us as we say together our chalice lighting words. We light this chalice for the light of truth. We light this chalice for the warmth of love. We light this chalice for the energy of action. We light this chalice for the harmony of peace. Thank you, Joe. Here at UUAA, we are a community bound together, not because we profess one single belief or creed, but because of the promises that we make to one another. These promises help us to be in right relationship with each other and strengthen the bonds we have formed and continue to form with those who we are in community with. Will you speak together with me the words of our covenant? The spirit of this church is love, and service is its law. This is our covenant with each other, to dwell together in peace, to search for truth in love, and to help one another. Thank you.
Today we are exploring how relationships can help create music and how music can help create relationships. So I want to share a beautiful story about that from one of my favorite authors, Mo Willems. It's called Because, and the illustrations are by Amber Wren. Because a man named Ludwig wrote beautiful music, a man named Franz was inspired to create his own. Because many years later, people wanted to hear Franz's beautiful music, they formed an orchestra. Because a man had practiced since he was a kid, he was asked to join. Because a woman studied night and day, she too was asked to play. Because many others loved and practiced their instruments, there were enough musicians. Because someone created a poster about Franz's music, tickets were sold. Because the train conductor stopped the train at the Grand Concert Hall, the orchestra conductor arrived. Because the orchestra librarian had copies of the score, the orchestra rehearsed. Because workers checked the lights and the seats and swept the floors, the grand hall was ready. Because the time had come, the ushers opened the doors. Because someone's uncle caught a cold, someone's aunt had an extra ticket for someone special. Because the usher helped the aunt and her special guest, they found their seats. Because everyone was there to hear beautiful music, it was quiet. In row C, seat 14, sat the girl with the uncle's ticket. She heard the beautiful music written by the man named Franz, and it changed her. The girl was changed. From that moment on, the girl learned everything she could about music because it fed her. Soon, she started to write music too, because, like Franz, the young woman had something to share. Over time, the woman became very good because she worked very hard. One night, her music was discovered because she was also very lucky. Then she was invited to perform her music at the Grand Concert Hall because so many people wanted to hear it. Her composition was dedicated to the uncle in row C, seat 14, because it was his ticket that brought her here. And that night, someone else was changed. That is how it happens. The end. As this book reminds us, when many people come together, they accomplish more than they ever could alone, including the ability to create a better future for the next generation. That's one of the reasons that working for justice is such an important part of our community and our wider faith movement. In our congregation, there are so many ways to get involved in social justice work. So each month, we take the time to highlight one of those groups. So this month, we're going to learn about restorative justice. And to tell us more, I'd like to invite forward Carolyn Madden and Kathy Friedrichs, co-chairs of our restorative justice group.
Good morning. We've both been tested, so we can take off the mask. Okay. I'm Carolyn Madden, and with me is Kathy Friedrichs. We're co-chairs of Restorative Justice of UUAA. Today we want to tell you a little bit about what we've been up to and what we hope to bring to this congregation. Today we will have one of the first forums at UUAA since the pandemic, co-sponsored with Unity Forum, Restorative Justice, and UU Civs. I, for one, am delighted to be back in person and equally delighted to be able to meet later today for a presentation and discussion about some of the most important issues of the day regarding criminal justice reform. Daniel Jones will be our forum speaker, and he has an amazing story. And I do not throw that word around lightly. Danny has an incredible story and represents how healing, which is what restorative justice is all about, should be an integral part of our prison and legal system. And this emphasis on healing as part of justice is the embodiment of our first and second principles, the inherent worth and dignity of every person, and justice, equity, and compassion in human relations. We'll come back to Danny in a minute. But we also want you to know what else we've been up to and what we will be doing in the next few months. Restorative Justice has obtained a grant from the National Association of Community and Restorative Justice to support 10 returning citizens formerly incarcerated or justice impacted, including Danny, to participate in restorative justice training with the Dispute Resolution Center in Washtenaw County. They will join a cadre of volunteers, some of us here in our congregation, working with the prosecutor's office to provide alternatives to sentencing for the justice involved. Kathy?
Next month, Restorative Justice UU will offer our congregation an opportunity to be involved in the healing of those who are incarcerated through the Good Neighbor Project, a correspondence program that matches those of us outside prison with those inside. In January, we will provide a forum on what is restorative justice and how it's working in our community and throughout the nation. Over 45 states and hundreds of counties and religious communities provide restorative justice program for those in the legal system and those in communities where they see restorative justice as a resource to resolve conflict without the legal system's involvement. The second part of that presentation will be a restorative justice circle, modeled on the kind of practice that has been used in our indigenous communities for hundreds of years. Restorative Justice UU is committed to working with the UUAA's Racial Justice Arc and Radical Welcome to make our congregation a safe haven for those who want to speak their truth, such as Danny Jones. Danny's story is one of healing and redemption while serving in prison as a juvenile lifer. With the support of the American Friends Service Committee, Danny created a program inside prison to help others help themselves to succeed in healing and prepare for successful parole hearings. Out of this experience, Danny will tell you how he landed on his feet in leadership positions with MySemi, the Michigan Collaborative to End Mass Incarceration, Voting Access for All Coalition, and Nation Outside. Danny will present some opportunities for you to learn and be engaged and understand why everyone deserves a second chance. Please join us this afternoon at 1 o'clock here in the sanctuary, in person, or on Zoom, where you can check the bulletin for the link to meet Danny and hear his remarkable story. Thank you.
Thank you both. Building bridges between our divisions. I reach out to you, will you reach out to me? Is that not exactly what restorative justice is asking in their efforts to reform the criminal justice system? They are reaching out, connecting, and building healing relationships in a context that is more typically known for building walls and keeping people apart. The restorative justice process builds bridges between individuals and institutions and brings us closer to building the beloved community. I encourage your participation in the forum today to learn more about this important work. With all of our voices and all of our visions, friends, we could make such sweet harmony. I find hope in this simple Quaker song and a reminder that through our voices and our vision, we have power to create change for the better. So friends, in a moment, we will add some sweet harmony. But for now, our collective congregational voice will be rhythm. If you would join me, as you're able and willing, you might want to quietly say the words, building bridges, building bridges. And if you're feeling adventuresome, and we can add to this, building bridges, building bridges, building bridges. Yeah. And if that's not so good, go back to this. That's fine. Building bridges, building bridges. We're going to add one more variation. See if you can do this. Building bridges. Building bridges. It's okay to go back to this. All right. So keep this going, and we're going to add our sweet harmony now.
Building bridges between our divisions. I reach out to you, will you reach out to me? With all of our voices and all of our visions, friends, we could make such sweet harmony.
Building bridges between our divisions. I'm
Building bridges between our divisions. I reach out to you, will you reach out to me? With all of our voices and all of our visions,
with all of our voices and all of our visions,
building bridges between our divisions. I reach out to you, will you reach out to me? With all of our voices and all of our visions,
with all
friends, we
of our
could make
voices
such
and all
sweet
of our
harmony. Friends, we could make such sweet harmony.
Thank you, singers, for your sweet harmony, and thank you all for your rhythmic voice. Each Sunday in October, we have the opportunity to hear a congregant's story of how this community has made a difference in their life and why they have made a financial commitment in the form of their annual pledge to support the work this community is building. And this week, I'm happy to introduce Kyla Boyse, a member of the mighty alto section of the Chalice Singers. Kyla.
Good morning. Good morning. It is a mighty alto section. 3 weeks ago, Ed Lynn spoke about reverse culture shock and the challenges of trying to get back to normal. If you missed that sermon, I recommend you watch the video. He said that as we return physically to our church home and meeting together in person, it's as if we've been in another country for 18 months. I agree. And in my pandemic journey, there was no in-person Chalice Singers. And that was really hard. You see, it took me a long time to join the choir because I felt like I didn't have time. probably know that feeling, right? It's hard to say yes to things when you feel like, how do I fit everything? Finally, I realized that I would never feel like I had enough time, so I just needed to jump in. Then I wondered why I'd waited so long. Immediately, choir became central to my spiritual practice. But even so, before COVID, each Thursday I'd think, oh yeah, I have choir tonight. Grumble a little bit internally, wondering how I was going to fit it into my week. Then I'd arrive, see all those folks in my beloved community. We'd start singing, listening, working together, and the magic would happen. By the end of the rehearsal, I felt remade, spiritually restored, grounded, and connected. Zoom choir, over those difficult 18 months, was better than nothing, but it didn't have the same restorative power for me. All that work and rehearsal is so that we can bring music to the worship service as an offering. The music is a contribution to the congregation's worship together, and that gift feels so meaningful. 3 years ago, our youngest child, Yvette, became the rare high school kid to join the Chalice Singers. She had aged out of the Chalice Sparks, and she wanted to keep singing in our congregation. What a treat it's been to share the joy of singing with her. It really means a lot to me. This is her last year in high school, so it's wonderful that the Chalice Singers are back singing together in person. Now, COVID precautions make it harder. We used to have a lot of hugs, and we sat close together. It was easy to hear one another, and that's really important when you're singing in a choir. Now, we're wearing masks, and we're all spaced out, taking up this whole sanctuary when we rehearse. COVID, like so many things, COVID forces a new focus and lots of adaptation. So now we have to listen even harder, and we have to enunciate even more clearly. Our music ministries are sort of a microcosm of our church. As musicians, we listen carefully to one another, work hard together, we create beauty and meaning, we welcome everyone, we offer of ourselves, and we form strong connections. Like a choir, all of us who together make up this congregation can accomplish so much more than just the sum of our parts. This is why our family pledges and why we responded to Edlin's case for increasing our pledge this year, and why we encourage everyone who can to do the same. As we tackle climate justice, anti-racism and anti-oppression work, and strive to embody radical welcome, we can choose to give of our time and talents and make generous pledges to this congregation as we're able. Like our music ministries, reaching for our vision for the future is going to sound so gorgeous, and it's going to feed our souls.
Thank you so much, Kyla. Each year, we spend this time during our annual budget campaign reflecting on all that we have built together and all that we want to continue to build together in the months and years ahead. So we ask for your pledges, which are your best guess about what you'll be able to give in the coming year. And then we use those pledges to create our annual budget and plan our ministries and programs. Pledging is a powerful spiritual practice, a practice of generosity that has allowed our congregation to be a place of comfort, inspiration, connection, and justice for over 150 years. In addition to yearly pledging, we also practice generosity each week by collecting an offering. This week, our offering will go to support the ministries and programs of this congregation. So we invite you to make a donation by texting 73256 to UUAA, or you can go to uuaa.org/giving, or you can leave your donations in the baskets as you leave the service. But however you give, thank you for your generosity and commitment. As we prepare to dedicate today's offerings, I invite you to join me by rising in body or in spirit. Together, let us say, to the work of this congregation, which is weaving a tapestry of love and action, we dedicate our lives and these our offerings. Thank you. You may be seated.
To love and to all friends I will sing. 2 years ago, we all would have been singing that together, with the chalice singers adding their voices, the piano guiding us along the way, the director of music conducting, keeping us together, starting and ending as one. The world and a persistent virus had other ideas. The world has forced us, a congregation that identifies as one that sings, to rethink how we maintain that identity. Perhaps it's a matter of faith. Jenga, Imani, Yako, Ndugu. Build your faith, brethren. Kama watu wa zamani, as our ancestors did. Kesha sana, ukiomba sana, by diligently staying strong and praying. Utajenga, Imani, Yako. You will build your faith. This song was written by the Tanzanian composer and singer Israel Kagaruki. He wrote this to offer encouragement to those living and struggling with AIDS in Africa, to encourage them to never give up, to keep the faith, and to keep going. It can do the same for us, even as we struggle with a different pandemic. We can say, stay strong and pray, if that's something you do, but we can also stay strong and take action. Build is a verb. We can build our faith, build our community, even though we cannot do things exactly as we did 2 years ago. And even if we could, the pandemic has given us the opportunity to ask, do we want to? What do we carry with us? What do we leave behind? Who are we? Who do we want to be going forward? We can answer these questions individually, but we also have the chance to think about them collectively. And they apply to all areas of our work here: climate justice, radical welcome, mindful eating, restorative justice, anti-oppression, anti-racism, spiritual growth and development. The list goes on. But today, for a moment, let's specifically think about these questions in relation to our music ministries. The most recent director of music, Dr. Glenn Thomas Rideout, bid farewell to UUAA after leading the music ministries for 14 years. Now, in the current UU universe of ministry, 14 years is a very long time. So it follows that a change after that many years can be difficult and sad and confusing. It can bring up all sorts of emotions. But it can also be welcomed as an opportunity to really look at where we have been, where we are now, and where we want to be. It's a chance to think about how are we going to build our music ministries. The questions may feel daunting, but we have help. We have someone who will guide us through this process, much in the same way UU congregations invite interim ministers for 2 years when a senior minister leaves or retires. Only this is like interim express. Our part-time interim music consultant, Bailey Whiteman, will be seeing us through the process over this 1 year, this church year. Her work has already begun, and I encourage you to go back to emails and the website and weekly news to learn the details. And consider participating in the sessions scheduled for this coming weekend, when she will be here in person. This is the time to help shape UUAA's musical identity going forward. If you learned one thing from Dr. Glenn Thomas, I hope it is that your voice matters, and we need to hear your voice. Now, if you have been joining us since we began our in-person and live stream services in September, you know that even though we can't yet use our collective voice to sing, there has been no shortage of music. We continue to have piano and handbells and soloists and even small vocal ensembles, even the whole choir via recording. Music is just too important to our identity and to our spiritual well-being to put it on hold or to let it go altogether. As we heard from Kyla, being part of the choir makes it clear just how much the whole is more than its parts, how much can be accomplished when we work together to create something of beauty, when we create music, and this applies to any context. Maybe we are creating a mission statement or rewriting a policy, crafting a stewardship letter, or developing the new website. They too should be things of beauty. And as we work together in the choir, we also do this with our handbells. So we're going to take a look at that for a moment, and I'm moving over there. So to demonstrate something, I'm going to ask Allison to play a couple measures of a piece that the handbells are working on. And just listen and see what you hear. Go ahead. Okay, so remember, this is one person playing all those notes. Will you do the next little segment? Thank you. So we're going to pretend we're maybe in our rehearsal for a moment, and we're going through this section, and let's just see what happens. Let's do measure 3. 3 E and a 4 E and a. Oops. Okay, let's start again. Let's try measure 3 again. Okay, 3 E and a 4 E and a 1 E and a 2. Okay, let's look at that last part of measure 11. Ready? 3 and. So what do you notice? There are 5 people. Do they sound like one Allison? When one part is out of sync, what happens to the whole? Whether it's handbells or choir, small or large ensembles, what you hear when we offer music in worship is the result of our work as an ensemble, as a musical community. Our work at being in relationship and trusting the process, trusting in each other and committed to keep at it even when it gets hard, even when we mess up. So we're going to play this piece through for you, and I wonder if anyone is trusting enough to volunteer to play one of the rain sticks with us. Anybody want to do that? Someone? Yes? So Robert, you can move there. So I will just point to you for rain sticks. Robert, you can stay right there. That's perfect. When you start doing the rain sticks, just keep going. Okay? All right. And so I'm going to introduce Holly Kelchner, one of our handbell players, who is going to give you a short reflection.
I joined the handbell choir shortly after moving to Ann Arbor in 2019. I remember Theresa mentioning at service that they were looking for some extra players, and I thought, you know, I've never played handbells, but I can read music, so I think I can learn, right? At first, I thought it'd be a great way to meet other people in the community and provide a service to that community. I've played flute for over 15 years. When I started college, I actually started in a program to be a music teacher, to share my passion with music with others. During my freshman year, however, in this program, I developed an overuse injury, and with that came debilitating pain when playing. So I interpreted that as music wasn't meant to be my calling, and I found a new path. I still play, took a few years off from playing in an ensemble. I still practiced alone periodically, but it wasn't exactly the same. When I found myself playing in the handbell choir, I felt home again. Music had a purpose. To me, music isn't just about playing the correct notes on a page. It's so much more than that. Music is meant to be shared and experienced with people. It's a language that expresses emotion and connection like no other. That's why when you look around the globe, every form of culture has some form of music that is used to bring people together. Music has evolved in parallel with religions and faiths as a collective tradition shared by its people. I grew up attending a Moravian church, which has a tradition to sing a song called Morning Star on Christmas Eve. This song connects Moravians to each other across congregations, which I didn't realize until leaving the faith and then stumbling into a Moravian church several years later on Christmas Eve. I was instantly brought back to that childlike state of remembrance and connection to others, even when knowing no one at the church. While I've just shared a very specific example of one song being used to connect people, It's important to note that music doesn't need to be as specific to share with others. I'm sure many of us have felt a collective longing to share music with one another that has never been experienced before. Throughout 2020, we haven't been going to concerts, music festivals, singing together in church, or anything of the sort. I can't speak for others, but I have felt alone, because music is an energy source that brings us together through shared experience. Which brings me back to my part in the handbell choir. Throughout the last 18 months, we've been playing together through Zoom. Mind you, I had only been playing with the handbell choir for about 6 months before everything went virtual, but I still felt completely a part of this group. We would come together weekly and listen to a recording of the music that we were practicing, and Theresa would direct us through Zoom without being able to hear anyone else. I could strike the wrong bell at the wrong time and no one would know. I could also play the exactly what was written on the sheet of music perfectly, and no one would know. So is this music? Playing a few notes on the page at exactly the right rhythm? Technically, from a physical standpoint, sound waves moving through time and space, this could be considered music, but it didn't feel like it. To me, I've learned that music is something I prefer to share with others through playing in an ensemble because it reminds me that I matter. Within the handbell choir, there's only one person playing my notes. If I get lost or play the wrong note, the collective music is altered. With practice, music provides discipline, creative energy, and a sense of feeling like something greater, which is important within a community. A quote that has stuck with me for a while that came from a sermon by Reverend Linda Susan is, "If we all do a little bit, then no one has to do it all." And that's what being a part of the handbell choir is to me. I enjoy playing my part because it would be completely absurd to think that one person could play every part. Back in August, we were finally able to have our first in-person practice. There are a few ways that practice could have gone after being apart for 18 months, but instead, there was only what I would call a divine energy that circled throughout the room. As we picked up our bells and were ready to play our first song together, we began to play, and instead of sounding like individuals that hadn't played together in over a year, we sounded like one choir that had never stopped playing. I'd be lying if I told you there weren't a few tears shed that day, because the feeling of making music together is so powerful, it literally alters your brain chemistry. That's why music is used as an actual therapy. It lifts your spirits when you're feeling down. It keeps you going when you're feeling good. I'm so grateful to be a part of my little handbell community and share music with you all. That is my gift to my UU community. I hope that our music lifts your spirits and provides you with a feeling of connection to share it with me. Thank you.
Thank you, Holly. Jenga is the Swahili word for build. In the verses of the piece Jenga, Imani, Yako, the composer references biblical characters, Abraham, Isaac, Job, Sarah, and others, and shows how these ancestors demonstrated the ways they built faith. The words of the chorus direct us to build our faith right now. And for the future, how do we keep building our beloved music ministries? How do we keep building any of our ministries?
Because someone told you your voice matters. You sing.
Because you sing with others.
You have faith in the song.
Because you have faith.
You keep singing even when no one can hear you.
Because someone told you your voice matters. That is how we build our beloved community.
Amen. May it be so.
Amen. May
Go
it be
in
so.
peace.
Go in peace.
Amen. May it be so. Go in peace.
Amen. May it be so. Go in peace, my friends.